Hi guys, it's Dylan from Bijou Diamond Jewellery in London with another watch video, and today we're taking a look at the Audemars Piguet releases for 2020. I know I'm a few months late on this because they were released back at the end of January, so a couple months ago now. But I really wanted to wait until Watches and Wonders had happened and was over so that we had time to reflect on what was released from the other brands. The reason I wanted to wait for Watches and Wonders is because, in my opinion, Audemars Piguet are always so far ahead of the trend, and I wanted to just double check this time again that my theory was correct, and it has been, in my opinion, yet again. Audemars Piguet has proved themselves to be ahead of the trend, even though this year is a relatively mellow release year, even though we've got lots of models. I feel like Audemars Piguet is always quite ahead of the trend when it comes to all areas of watchmaking and marketing and designs and moving with the trends and the times and what clients are asking for. So let's crack on and take a look at the new models this year. This year is a really important year because it marks the 50th anniversary for the Royal Oak, which is of course Audemars Piguet's bread and butter, released back in 1972. The Royal Oak actually saved the brand, and if it wasn't for the Royal Oak back in 1972, the brand probably would have gone bust, like many other brands at that time. So it's a really important watch in their history and really part of their DNA, core part of their DNA. In fact, it probably makes up around 95% of all sales for the brand themselves, the Royal Oak line. It really is Audemars Piguet. Really important anniversary this year then. And to celebrate this, Audemars Piguet has released 42 new models of the Royal Oak line, and we'll split them up over different sections of the collection and take a look at each section. But there's a running theme here with what they've done to the collection, so I'll just outline those here now, and that basically applies for most of these watches that I'll mention after, unless mentioned otherwise. So to celebrate 50 years, as a little nod to this being the 50th anniversary and all watches produced during this year, Audemars Piguet has applied a small little touch, a really sweet touch, which is a 50th anniversary rotor inside the movement of each of the watches produced this year that feature a clear crystal case back, which is most of the collection, but not all. So not all watches will feature this. Another feature or change they've done to the watches this year is the dials have been slightly changed. The balance between the hands and the index markers has been adjusted, so they're slightly more homogeneous, as they keep saying. They just marry together a little bit better. They're slightly more similar rather than slightly different in size and length, etc. So that's nice to see. Very subtle change, barely noticeable for most people. Another change that all the watches have seen, almost all the watches have seen, is the bezel or beveled edges on the sides of the watch case have been slightly increased in size, and that's the little polished edges I'm talking about on the edge of the case lugs. That is to create a little bit more of a shimmer and sparkle off the case of this watch, which already the Royal Oak is super famous for anyway, but this is just going to emphasize that and make it look even more of a feature, which is nice. Very, very subtle feature change though. So again, most people won't necessarily notice this straight away. Another change is to the bracelet, and we're seeing now that the first 4 links are slightly changed in terms of shape. The tapering is slightly more exaggerated, and the watch actual links are slightly thinner towards the end as well, so those are being tapered too, and the effect is that the watch will feel slightly lighter on the wrist because we're getting rid of excess material here, and it also should feel slightly more comfortable on the wrist as well, due to the kind of more flatter feel that it will have, and the way it will probably conform a little bit more comfortably to a wrist shape. So yeah, again, very, very minor changes there, but all the watches, almost all the watches we're discussing now, will have those changes to them. Moving on to our first watch now that we're looking at, our first specific model, and that is of course the star of the show, which is the extra thin. Previous reference to this is the 15202 ST for the steel variation, and the new one is the 16202 ST, so it's just gone up by 1. This obviously is the most important watch really in this release, and the fact that this is the watch they're celebrating the 50th anniversary for. So these new 16202s feature the new 50th anniversary rotors, which I don't know if I mentioned before, are only in production for this year only, which makes them super collectible, I suppose. And in a few years' time, people will see these special rotors, and that'll be a special feature of this watch, and I'm sure collectors will go crazy for these. Already, Audemars Piguet Royal Oaks are very hard to get hold of, and I feel like this year is just going to be an even harder year to get these watches, which is obviously a great marketing ploy from the brand again. They're always super switched on when it comes to marketing. So the new 16202 extra thin reference, which is, again, like I said, the model that we're really celebrating the 50th anniversary for, has a really important change here, and that is a new movement. This new movement actually is the new 7121 caliber, and for the first time in 50 years since the release of this watch, we have replaced, or they've replaced, the Jaeger movement, the JLC movement in this watch, with an in-house Audemars Piguet movement for the first time on the extra thin. So that's a really, really important change in the history of the extra thin. So this is a special model in that respect for sure. The movement offers various different improvements like reliability and power reserve, but yeah, really welcome obviously now to see that this is now an in-house movement for the brand. That's an exciting change for sure. So this extra thin comes in steel, in yellow gold, in rose gold, and also in platinum. So we'll start with the steel, as well as the above changes that I mentioned with the bracelet, the case, the movement, the dial. We also have a slightly changed blue dial on this watch. The blue on this dial is slightly darker and less blue looking. It's more of a grey blue than the 15202, so the previous reference, and that is in essence to try and make it look more similar to the original reference from 1972, which is really nice. They've tried to keep it even closer, and the watch has barely changed over the years. They've tried to keep it as close to that original reference as possible, and changes like this are always welcome because it keeps it truer, even more true to the original version. And those collectors that want that original version can now buy, still a modern day watch from Audemars Piguet that is a real nod to the original example that they brought out back in the 70s. Next, taking a look at the yellow gold, which is one of the coolest watches they've released this year, with this amazing smoky kind of gradient style. I think it's such a fantastic looking watch. When you see this in the wild, or pictures of it in the wild, it looks just really beautiful. Moving on to the rose gold, we have a similar kind of smoky gradient dial here. Both these watches featuring smoky dials, and this grey dial is a beautiful combo with the rose gold. It just looks really, really lovely. I would have loved it if they maybe added a little bit of a hint of brown into that colour. I feel like that would look really nice if it was like a grey brown, but the grey is still nonetheless a fantastic combo with the rose gold. Moving on to our platinum now, we've got a stunning platinum example in full platinum. Literally the whole watch is in full platinum, and on this model we've got a brushed finish on the bezel, unlike previous models that have had polished bezels, so much better looking in my opinion. The dial on this watch is obviously the center feature of this piece, it being this amazing sunburst effect with the gradient edge in green, just so beautiful. I absolutely love the dial on this watch. I can't wait to see one in person. It's just fantastic. I would love to have seen it maybe in the tapisserie effect though. I think when Audemars Piguet does these flat dials or no non-textured dials, it doesn't have the same Audemars Piguet life and kind of character. It almost doesn't feel like a full Audemars Piguet. So I would love to see that same color, that same gradient, but on a tapisserie effect. I feel like that would be really, really nice. Moving on to another extra thin now, looking at the new open worked extra thins. Open worked extra thins are always one of the coolest watches in the collection, so this is super cool to see again. We've got rose gold and steel versions here, with these amazing kind of almost Spider-Man skeletonized dials. They're just really clean and simple, but very, very intricate and beautiful. And the way they're kind of balanced around that balance wheel, and yeah, it's kind of asymmetrical on the way. It's very, very nice looking. I love it. I personally find the extra thin open worked versions much more interesting than just the 41mm open worked watches, purely because they've managed to fit an open worked movement into an 8mm deep watch, which is pretty insane. I also love the way that it conforms and fits the wrist so nicely and so snugly as well. It just looks really beautiful on your wrist when you see an open worked watch like that. And I also much prefer smaller watches too, so that 39mm case size is much more favorable for my wrist, or my eyes really. Personally, of the two, I would go for the steel. We also have new movements on this watch, which are variations of the 7121 that we've seen on the normal extra thin. These are 7124 caliber movements from Audemars Piguet, in-house movements as well. Moving on to another open worked watch from Audemars Piguet, we've got the amazing open worked flying tourbillon in the 41mm case size in steel. One of the most beautiful watches in the collection. For me, I would have to crown this as the king or queen of this collection, or this year's releases. I just think it's one of the most beautiful watches they've ever made. And to tip it off with that 50th anniversary rotor, I think this is going to be one of the most collectible and sought after watches for many, many years to come. It is a really, really stunning timepiece. I could go on about this piece for hours and hours and hours. The balance and the symmetry of this watch is one thing that I really, really love. I just love the way that all the bridges are kind of symmetrical, the way that tourbillon just floats on that dial. Everything about it is just really a pure work of art, and it is truly skeletonized as well. You can see it right through it. Unlike the extra thins, I don't believe you can see straight through those. So this is really cool to be able to see straight through it, especially when you've got a tourbillon beating there as well. This is like a dream watch really for me. This is ultimate holy grail really. If they did it in a smaller case size, it would be game over. I'd just be in love. But yeah, amazing watch. Definitely my favorite, I'd say, from Audemars Piguet this year, and possibly even my favorite watch released this year, full stop. Continuing on with the tourbillons, moving on to just the standard 41mm non-open worked watches. We've got 3 new models in conjunction with the existing 3 models that were already available. These are all blue dials, one in steel, one in titanium, one in rose gold. The titanium's a really lovely looking watch with this kind of sandblasted blue dial. Really interesting effect. I like the kind of white ring around the dial as well. It gives it a very young, kind of sporty feel to it. Definitely a very different vibe than what the tapisserie effect or grand tapisserie effects that we see on the rest of the dials here. So yeah, really nice to see. Moving on to our tapisserie effect dials on the steel specifically, we've got a kind of standard looking grand tapisserie dial here with the blue, with that gradient kind of dark outside moving into the lighter inner core, which kind of just draws your eye to that amazing beating heart, which is the tourbillon here. Just stunning, and obviously on steel just looks fantastic. I think of the two, I probably would go for the steel over the titanium, even though I really love that concept of having a titanium Audemars Piguet with a flying tourbillon. But yeah, the steel just is a fantastic look, and I prefer the dial on the steel for sure. Moving on to our rose gold now. We've got the same dial that we see on the steel, but in rose gold, which of course looks absolutely beautiful with rose gold hands and rose gold indexes. Of the 2 or of the 3 even, I would say the steel is my favorite. These watches also feature the new kind of 3D style logo at 12 o'clock, the Audemars Piguet logo. It's almost elevated out from the dial now, like in a 3D effect, which is another little thing that they did this year. It's made from a really complex way of printing the logo, each individual letter, and then each individual letter is actually joined by a little piece of metal that's as thin as a piece of hair. So really incredible. As always from Audemars Piguet, at the tippy top of watchmaking and innovation. Moving on from the tourbillons and looking at the rest of the 41mm collection, we're looking at the chronographs now, and they all feature the newer style 3D logos as well. The new case changes, same as the tourbillons, with the new beveled edges, the new bracelets, and just the general changes that we've seen on the other watches. So nice to see all those revamped features or alterations to the watch. I'm sure they'll be welcomed by lots of collectors. We also have, in addition to our standard dials that we've seen in the last couple of years, we also have some new dials. We've got a white, blue, black and a green. All of them look absolutely fantastic. Of course, the star of the show this year being the green, as it's the new version, or the new dial, or truly new dial. All of the rest of them we've seen them in slightly different variations or versions of over the years. These also all feature the new 50th anniversary rotor as well, just for this year, because they all feature clear crystal case backs, which is nice. We also have the rose gold variations of these watches too, available in all of those same colors, and also available in leather strap versions, bar the white dial. So we've got the black, the blue and the green all available in crocodile strap versions of those watches, which looks amazing. The king of these, I would say, or queen of these, king or queen, is the rose gold with the green dial and the green leather strap. I think that's one of the most beautiful watches they have in their whole entire collection. Moving on to the 38mm chronographs. These are beautiful watches that were really, really popular when they came out. They're extremely hard to get hold of, so they definitely have done well, and they've continued to be really difficult to get. These are available now with a blue, a grey, a light blue, in steel, dials, and also in rose gold with a blue dial and also a white dial. The white dial with the rose gold and the light blue dial both feature diamond bezels. So it's nice with the 38mm because it does obviously translate into a bit of a midi size. It can be either a woman's watch or a man's watch. So it's good that they're catering for whoever wants to buy this watch. You know, the diamonds obviously is a lovely feature for a lady if they want to wear that. And these 38mm chronos are one of the only watches in the Royal Oak line now that do not feature a clear crystal case back. So these guys do not feature a 50th anniversary rotor for this year. Moving on to the 37mm Royal Oaks now, we've got a couple new dials here. So we've always had the, or recently had the white, the grey and the blue. We now have a new ice blue or light blue dial, and these each come with diamond bezel options as well, which is nice to see. We also have the new kind of 3D style logo again. The same changes to the case with the extra beveled edge or extra wide beveled edge, the tapered bracelet, and the other modifications to the design as well, like the dial with the hands and the indexes. We also have rose gold models with the diamond bezels as well, with a white dial, a blue dial and a new green dial, which is super, super beautiful. I'm really hoping that they bring this green dial to the steel standard non-diamond 37mm, because I think that would do really, really well. So hopefully next year we'll see that. I'm sure we probably will. Moving on to our 34mm black ceramic, which was released last year, which is an automatic movement as well, which is quite rare to see for a 34mm case watch from Audemars Piguet or Royal Oak. This again features the new 3D style logo, the same changes to the case, you know, with the wider beveled edge, the changes to the bracelet, and they also made some changes to the way that the bracelet connects together on this watch. Very, very minor updates. Most people will not notice the difference on this piece. Moving on to our final piece here, taking a look at the Royal Oak Offshores. We've got 4 new white gold 43mm Royal Oak Offshore options, all with some little twinkle of diamonds or sprinkling of diamonds. My personal favorite being the black dial with the amazing baguette set or baguette diamond set case and crown. I think that watch is really, really stunning. There's something about a baguette set watch that is just incredible to look at. It has a whole different life to a round brilliant set diamond watch or pave set watch. So yeah, really, really nice. That's definitely my favorite. I think it looks fantastic against the black as well. I love the way that they've intricately set the crown too. That's just really absolutely beautiful piece of jewelry making in a way. These will not be particularly popular compared to the other watches we've mentioned. They may command a waiting list, who knows. The level of client that can afford this is obviously a very, very high-end client, and therefore there's not that many of them out there, purely because this watch is probably your 10th or 15th watch in your collection. It's not something you can really wear every single day. So yeah, a very rare piece or set of watches, but also AP just flexing their ability to craft a watch with true incredible watchmaking that has been learnt for a couple hundred years almost now. That concludes my video looking at their releases for 2022. I apologize for the delay. I promise you there was a reason why I delayed this video. For me, Audemars Piguet is always ahead of the curve. They're always at the front when it comes into marketing, always at the front when it comes to trends and listening to clients, always at the front when it comes to innovating. They are, in a way, the leaders when it comes to watchmaking, and they are one of the smallest brands out there in the mega league. So really massive respect to them. I think Francois, the CEO, is just one of the coolest CEOs you could have for a watch brand, and I hope he stays there for many years to come, because the watch company or Audemars Piguet has definitely benefited massively from him being there. So yeah, fantastic brand, still my favorite, along with Patek, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. But as always, if you're interested in any of the watches mentioned in this video, then please don't hesitate to contact us. Our details are at the end of the video and also in the description. It'd be a pleasure to call any of these watches into stock for you.